Right now, someone just spent $400 on tickets to watch grown adults chase a ball for 2 hours. Meanwhile, you're sitting there thinking, I could have bought groceries for a month with that money. And you know what? Science says your brain might be operating on a completely different frequency than theirs. No, seriously. Neuroscientists have found that people who don't care about sports process social bonding, dopamine, and even identity in fundamentally different ways. And once you understand why, you'll never feel weird about zoning out during Super Bowl Sunday again. But before we get into it, hit that subscribe button if you're tired of feeling like the odd one out every time sports come up in conversation. So let's talk about what's actually happening here. Because the real question isn't, why don't I care about sports? The real question is, why does everyone else care so much? And the answer goes back thousands of years, way before anyone was selling $14 beers at stadiums. Humans survived because of tribes. Your tribe was everything. They protected you from things trying to eat you, they helped you find food, they kept you warm. Being kicked out of your tribe was basically a death sentence, so our brains evolved to crave belonging to a group. We're hardwired for it. Fast forward to today, and most of us don't have life or death tribes anymore. We're not hunting woolly mammoths together, but our brains still have that ancient wiring. They still crave that sense of us versus them, that feeling of being part of something bigger. Enter sports. Sports teams are basically corporate sponsors with corporate sponsors. When someone roots for a team, their brain releases oxytocin. That's the same bonding hormone that floods your system when you hug someone you love. Their brain is literally chemically convincing them that these random millionaires throwing a football are part of their family. Wild, right? But here's where people like you and me are different. Psychologists have found that some people just have lower tribal instincts. Not zero, just lower. These people don't need group membership to feel whole. They're more individualistic. They don't derive their sense of self from being part of a collective identity. There was a study in 2019 that looked at this. People with low sports interest showed significantly less us versus them thinking in general. They don't automatically divide the world into teammates and enemies. They don't feel threatened by people who root for different colors. They just don't see the point. And honestly, there's something kind of liberating about that. But let's talk about what's happening in a sports fanatic's brain during a game, because this is where things get genuinely concerning. Every single play triggers a dopamine response. Dopamine is that chemical that makes you feel good when you anticipate a reward. It's the same hit you get from checking your phone, from gambling, from eating chocolate. And during a sports game, it's firing constantly. Every possession, every shot, every catch. Microdoses of anticipation and potential reward over and over and over. Scientists did fMRI scans on sports fans watching games. The reward centers of their brains light up exactly like someone's brain lights up when they're gambling. And that's not a coincidence. The psychology is identical. The unpredictability is what makes it so powerful. You don't know if your team will win. You don't know if this play will work. That uncertainty keeps the dopamine pumping. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most addictive reward schedule that exists. It's the same principle that makes slot machines so effective at emptying people's wallets. People who don't obsess over sports simply don't get that dopamine hit from watching other people compete. And this might not even be a choice. Research from the University of Chicago found genetic variations in dopamine receptors that can predict how much someone cares about spectator sports. Read that again. Your complete indifference to whether some team wins or loses might literally be coded in your DNA. You were born this way. There's also this phenomenon called BIRGing, Basking in Reflected Glory. When their team wins, fans say, "We won," but when their team loses, suddenly it's "they lost." Notice how the pronoun changes? Sports fans unconsciously distance themselves from failure, but claim credit for success. They're using the team's performance to regulate their own self-esteem. Their mood on Monday depends on what happened Sunday. Their sense of self-worth is partially outsourced to people they've never met. People who don't care about sports don't do this. Their self-concept is more stable. They don't need external victories to feel successful. Their happiness doesn't crash because 11 strangers had a bad day at work. Now, before anyone gets upset, I'm not saying either approach is better, but they are different, fundamentally different. Here's something interesting though. Studies show sports fans often score higher on certain empathy measures. They practice caring deeply about other people's experiences, even if those people are complete strangers who happen to wear the same jersey. So why don't non-sports people feel that same empathy? It's about empathy allocation. Everyone has a finite capacity for deep caring. You can't care intensely about everything. Your brain would explode. Sports non-fans direct that empathy elsewhere: social justice causes, close relationships, creative work, intellectual pursuits. A 2021 study found that people with low sports interest scored significantly higher in openness to experience and appreciation for art and beauty. They're getting their emotional fulfillment from museums, concerts, books, nature, ideas. Same need, different source. Their brains are still seeking meaning, connection, transcendence. They're just finding it somewhere else than in a stadium. And let's be real about something. For some people, not caring about sports is a response to trauma. Maybe they were humiliated in gym class. Maybe they felt excluded by sports culture growing up. Maybe they're consciously rejecting the aggressive masculinity often associated with sports fandom. Maybe they're pushing back against the expectation that everyone should care about the same things. Your indifference might have a backstory, or maybe you just genuinely find it boring. Both are completely valid. But here's the part that explains so much tension between sports fans and non-sports fans. It comes down to how different people experience meaning. Sports fans find meaning in narrative, the underdog story, the comeback, the dynasty, the bitter rivalry. It's compelling because it's unpredictable, real drama with genuine emotional stakes. People who don't care about sports often find that randomness meaningless. They think, why would I emotionally invest in an outcome I can't control, performed by strangers in a game that doesn't actually affect my life? And they're not wrong, but sports fans aren't wrong either. It's two different approaches to the universal human need for story. One group finds epic narrative in a championship run. The other finds it in a novel, a relationship arc, a creative project, a scientific breakthrough. Researchers describe this as parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Sports fans build one-sided relationships with teams and players. They invest emotional energy into something that will never reciprocate. Non-sports people prefer investing that energy where their care actually matters, where they're participants, not spectators, where their effort influences the outcome. Neither strategy is superior, they're just different ways of navigating being human. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi studied flow states, those moments when you're completely absorbed in something and time disappears. He found that flow can be achieved through countless activities. For some people, it's watching sports. For others, it's literally anything else. And here's what's genuinely interesting. People who don't obsess over sports often report feeling more present in their own lives. They're not spending 3 hours every weekend experiencing someone else's struggle. They're engaged in their own challenges, their own growth, their own victories. There's something quietly powerful about that. So if you don't care about sports, you're not defective. You're not missing some essential human experience. Your brain is just wired differently. Your reward system, your tribal instincts, your empathy allocation are all calibrated to seek fulfillment elsewhere. Next time someone asks, "Did you see the game?" and you genuinely couldn't care less, remember you're not broken. You're just playing a different game. And who knows, maybe yours has higher stakes. Drop a comment and tell me, are you a sports person or a literally anything else person? And what do you think you're getting from your thing that sports fans get from theirs? I'm genuinely curious. And if you want to understand more about why your brain works the way it does, check out the video I'm putting in the corner about why some people need constant noise while others need complete silence to think. Trust me, it'll make a lot of things click. See you in the next one.